Communication is worth more than you think. Today on the Blue Collar Proud Show. Hey there, Proud Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. It's the show all about having and living the blue collar business dream. Taylor and I are excited to be here with you today, helping you get where you want to go with good information, encouragement, education, mentoring, all those good things. Thanks for letting us join you on your journey to success. It's a privilege to be there. My name is Carter Harkins. With me every single week is Taylor Hill.
So how are you doing on this beautiful spring, almost summer day?
I know I'm doing well. Thanks. We've had some days that are already 90, 92 degrees.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Here in Nashville.
Can't even tell the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, spring was summer months ago, it seems like.
And I don't know. I mean, I've lived here over 20 years now, and it seems like in May, we sometimes have temperatures that are higher in May than they are in June and July.
Yeah.
It's like it peaks in May and then starts to back off a little bit until August and September when it starts going up again. It's weird.
And there's other times May's cold.
Yeah.
It's weird. It is weird.
Yeah.
Just, you never know.
It's
just kind of, it's kind of like other things in life. You just never know.
Well, weather has a huge impact on business for sure, especially in trades, but something else that has a lot of impact on business, how's that for a segue?
I like it.
Is communication. I want to tell you about our special show sponsor, Closing Commander. Closing Commander helps you unlock the revenue that is trapped in your open estimates. It does this with an automatic follow-up system. Check it out. We have a special deal for you for being a Blue Collar Proud Show listener. You can click the link in today's show notes or the special offers link in the BCP Show app to get your first 30 days completely free. Click the link. Do it today.
Well, I'm going to ask you a really quick question.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious. Have you ever been guilty of bad communication?
Oh, sure. Of course.
Well, but I want to know if you're like me, sometimes you realize that, wow, this is what this is, and got it straightened out. Mm-hmm. And I want to know what the end result was. What triggered the fact that you realized, this is a communication fail?
Yeah.
And how did you save it?
Yeah. So for me, and this is just me, this is what I believe, I think poor communication always starts with a lack of empathy for the people or person that you're communicating with. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is the ability to put yourself in their shoes, to understand what they know about what you're talking about, to understand how they feel about what's going on, to understand what they may be feeling leading up to the moment that you're having this conversation or communication. All of those things play a role in making sure that you're doing a good job of communicating effectively. And 9 times out of 10, when you're not communicating well, when it's either poor communication or just plain bad communication, in other words, you're communicating in the absolute wrong way to communicate.
Right.
Oftentimes it comes down to a lack of understanding of the other person, right? Having that empathy. And that goes to, the reason that the number one enemy of empathy is the assumptions and expectations we have about other people. Yeah. We assume that they know something that they really don't know. So they have no clue what it is we're talking about. Or we expect that they will behave in a certain way when we tell them certain information, and it turns out to be absolutely wrong. And that expectation is wrong because we didn't take time to try to understand their perspective or what was going on before the conversation happened, those kinds of things. So yeah, I've done things that I'm not proud of in terms of how I started a communication, coming at somebody strong and then realizing, oh wait, I didn't take into consideration a lot of these other factors. I've trampled on feelings. I've done things but when you understand that that's happened, right? How do you get back on track? How do you communicate what needs to be communicated and do what needs to be done with empathy and better assumptions and expectations for the person you're communicating with? And that's where, if you can learn to catch that quickly, ideally before you start the communication, then you're better off.
Yeah.
But if you catch it in the middle, then you can still course correct. It's never too late to go, what is this person, what's really going on here? How is this person receiving what I'm saying? Yeah. Do they understand what I understand? Do I need to explain more of that first before we can have meaningful communication? And stopping to do those things and then continuing the conversation. It usually gets on track again, but I don't know. I mean, I could think of specific examples, but none of them are particularly interesting, and all of them are embarrassing. So,
okay, well, that's good. So let's see what Tim's got to say, because I know what he's going to be talking about is specifically in business.
Yes, and how communication impacts what you do and why it's important. So this is a great conversation with Tim Reed. He's been a guest on our show before, but this time we had him in the studio. And I got a chance to talk to him about this. So let's roll that, and then we'll come back afterwards and talk some more about communication.
Sounds great.
Communicate about communicating.
Sounds great.
Tim Reed, thank you for coming back on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
So communication is what we're talking about, and you've talked to us before about this, but I want to hear from you. What's the value of really investing in better communication for a business?
Well, communication is worth more than you think. And this is a funny story, but this happened to me a couple weeks ago, where we were having communication issues with a sub, and we brought him in to talk to him about it. And they looked at me and they said, "Be careful when you talk to me about this because I see what you mark our prices up to." And I said, "Good, I'm glad you see it. I double your price for the customer because we have to do your communication for you. So you're leaving 100% of your money on the table. You know, if you charge $200 for a service call, you're leaving $200 on the table because you won't communicate with your customers, and you're forcing us to do it as the general contractor."
That's so true. Well, one of the things we talk about in terms of marketing from a retention strategy standpoint is, having a customer come back and spend with you again. You can luck into, having a customer once, and they'll spend with you. But if they didn't have a world-class communication experience, if they didn't know everything they needed to know, even before they asked, and preparation about every step along the way, leading them through a process with you, then your chances of having them back again as a customer is, very, very, very slim. But if you do a world-class job of communicating at every step along the way through a customer journey, then they already know what to expect when they come back again. And if it was great the first time, they already know it's going to be great the second time. And they're going to come back and spend with you again. When you talk about communication being worth more than you think about how much money you spend to get a customer. And then think about how much money you spend to keep a customer. And on average, across the country, you're going to spend 7 times more to get a new customer as you do to keep an existing customer.
Yeah, and like I was telling that sub, I said, I would love to not do your job for you, have you double your price, and call the customers instead of me. I would love that. But since you won't do that and we need to take care of the customer, we're going to double your price, make money on it, and just communicate with them. It's really simple that in an age of, where we are today, speed and convenience wins every time. That takes crystal clear communication.
Yeah. And of the two, he owns the work, you own the communication, you own the relationship. Of the two, I would rather own the relationship.
Absolutely.
Well, in this day and age, there's a lot of that can be automated. You can do some things because this is one of the things people think it's so time intensive, and it doesn't have to be. There are ways to get around that.
Sure.
You just have to figure that out.
Things like automating an appointment reminder to let people know, to send out an automated confirmation of a particular appointment date and time, things like that. What to know before we come for the appointment, or what to know before you come into the store, to talk about your particular things, what to bring with you. Those kinds of preps, those kinds of communications provide so much value to a customer because it gives them an exact path to walk down. And when we're talking about getting somebody focused on what they need, giving them the path toward that conclusion, it settles them. It reduces anxiety. It creates more chance that you're going to get to that end result that you want and that the customer wants to.
Yeah, and another story is we did a remodel at our house pretty recently and got some HVAC work done. And I can't tell you how it made me feel as a customer to get a phone call saying, "Hey, Mr. Reed, just so you know, our techs left the last job site. Should be there in the next 30 minutes or so." Mm-hmm. They showed up on time. They did some work. And on their return trip, I got the same phone call. Now, after this was done, I had some questions for the owner of the company. So I called and tried to get him, but he was out. So I said, "Don't worry, we'll have him call you back by the end of the day." I didn't get a phone call. It was getting to be late at night, 6:30, 7 o'clock. I got a call at 7 o'clock at night from the secretary saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry. He has not come back to the office yet, but we're aware he's going to call you first thing in the morning." As a consumer, they've won my business. I'm not going to shop it. I would rather pay for the convenience and being in the loop than quote unquote getting a deal and having to, herd cats for the whole job.
And what's really interesting about that, what you just said, as a consumer, they won your business. The reality is they didn't win it. It wasn't a contest. What they did is they made you feel good.
Yep.
That's it. What is the quote by Maya Angelou that says it's not...
People won't remember what you tell them, what you say. What they remember is how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And they made you feel valued.
Yep.
By simple communication.
And I'll tell you, for me, as in a leadership position at my company, 99% of the problem issues that I deal with come down to poor communication.
Yep.
And I'm convinced as a company that, say that you communicate right now at a 4 out of 10, if you can raise that to an 8 out of 10, I am convinced you can charge 50% more for your services. People will pay for it.
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
All day long.
Mm-hmm.
All day long. Every dollar you spend into improving communication, every hour you spend creating better systems that keep communication flowing the way that it needs to, without variance, without deviance, those are some of the best dollars that you can possibly spend, and the return on that is incredible. Like you said, if you can raise your prices, if you can reduce the amount of money you have to spend to win new customers to replace the ones that are leaving after they do business with you and you never see them again, all of those things add up to a more successful business.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, too, if there's a hiccup, good communication can smooth so many things over, and it's amazing because customers will be patient with you. Sure, there's a couple bad ones, but with most customers, as long as you keep them in the loop and do what you say when you say you're going to do it, they're really happy.
Yeah.
Boy,
yeah.
That's
simple, simple courtesy.
Absolutely. Tim Reed, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me.
So one of the things Tim said was that I thought was really interesting was that 99% of the problems in business, the problems in sales, the issues you have with employees, all of those things comes down to bad communication. And I've heard you say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's something that we care a lot about. But he went on to say that to the degree that you improve your communication, you can raise your prices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true.
And that's impactful too. So what I want to ask you, I kind of want to turn the tables a little bit here. Okay. I don't want to ask you for a specific example of a time you screwed up or were communicating poorly and how you turned it around. But I want to know what lessons have you learned during those times where you suddenly realized, you know what, I'm not communicating the way I need to, and there's a better way to communicate here. That I can improve communications, or that our team can improve communications, so we can communicate better with our customers or with our prospects, or what lessons have you learned about that from those times that
it's interesting. Probably my number one frustration as a kid was in communication with my father. Because my dad never listened. He always wanted to tell you what he thought, but he never took the time to sit down and listen. Mm. And as frustrated as I was as a kid with that, what I realized as I grew up is I became the same kind of a communicator. I mean, we do that. So the very first thing I learned is I have to stop that. And I still struggle with it. I mean, and I've known this for years, but I still get so impassioned and so... just I want to tell my side of the story and be heard. And that frustration comes from not being heard for so many years growing up that, by golly, I'm an adult, you're going to hear me. Mm. So I think the first thing is kind of that know thyself, understand why you have those feelings and those desires and those internal things inside yourself. And once you understand why you do that, then all of a sudden it becomes a lot less important to do that. But I see a lot of people, they're doing things in their communication for reasons they don't understand. Mm-hmm, so right. I think we all have to, and we all have things that we do. I've got people that I know that, oh my gosh, if I don't, it's like watching paint dry. But you got to sit there because they need to be heard.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how long you got to sit there. You just have to sit there. And they not only want to be heard, but they want to be understood. And for whatever reason, that is a need. And when you have a customer, a client, or an employee that has those needs, You just have to stay in the conversation.
Stay engaged.
Yeah, and stay
listen.
engaged and listen, and which was going to be my next thing. I think one of the other biggest mistakes we make is we have what we want to say so formulated in our mind that we do not listen to what somebody else is saying. And a lot of times, if you'll stop and listen to what they're saying, then you realize you're talking past each other, and you've got a lot more in common than you really thought. So those are the top two things, I guess, in my mind that I think are really, really important to pay attention to. And then the third one, if you want to add one more in there, I think the third thing is create space for communication. You cannot communicate effectively when you're running. So you have to create space for effective communication. So where I think this happens with techs out in the field is when you've got a tech that's got 6 or 7 appointments in one day and they're responsible for those appointments, you put them in a situation that they are running from appointment to appointment to appointment. So to expect them to be able to create the space for effective communication is unrealistic. So you either have to set up a system where you get back to the client, you do something else, or you have to hire more people that you're going and having more time with that customer if they need it. I mean, you got to build stuff in for people.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
And we've heard that too as a result of training, and this ties into what I was saying at the top of the show, the need for empathy. When you teach a tech how to empathize with customers more and understand their point of view, to understand their feelings and experiences before you ever walk into the house, into the situation that you're there to solve, what's necessary, right? To hear the customer's complaint, to hear how it's impacted them, how concerned they are about what is going to be found when they start research, when they start looking into what the problem is, what the issue is, and how to solve it. How much is that going to cost? All of those things. And it does take time, and you have to allow that space for it, like you said. But what we hear from techs often is, well, but I'm also feeling under the gun. I'm feeling the pressure of, I know I've got a mission here. I've got to A, solve the problem, B, upsell the customer on what needs to, on what they need, or what I can sell, to them to solve this need. So I've got a sales job to do. That's a mission, a goal. And I have to get to my next appointment and not get behind today. And now you're telling me that I got to take time to build relationship and be empathetic and all of that. I mean, those things seem to be at odds with one another. So it really is important, I think, for owners to understand, perhaps if you are booking your appointments so tightly and so many of them per day per tech, that perhaps you're not charging enough.
Yeah.
Perhaps you need to charge a little bit more, do one less job a day, and give a little bit more breathing room to that tech to be able to do a better job in the home selling bigger ticket things and doing a better job of creating revenue from each opportunity.
I think the other thing, if you're an owner, you and I own a company, so we're really good at knowing how everything affects us.
Yeah.
We have to stop and get into the minds of our customers. Every owner should be doing this. And if you stop and get into the mind of your customer and you run a running gun operation and you get a lot of complaints from that, there's probably a reason for that. So I think if you'll stop long enough and think about what would happen if somebody comes and does some work at your house and you've got questions and they don't have time to answer.
Right.
Or they're running and what, gotta go. Call the office.
Here's
whatever.
an invoice.
Here's an invoice.
Well, what did you
Good
do?
luck.
It's on there.
It's on there. Yeah. I mean, those are the things. I had some work done on a roof, and the guy told me, he said, while I was up there, I did an inspection. I'm going to go back and do an entire report, and you'll get it in the mail. And about 10 days later, I got a really nice report in the mail, some things that they offered that they could do for me, and da-da-da-da. Now, I've chosen not to do that because I've got a metal roof, and it's going to last for 60 years supposedly. So, it's there's some things that you got to take in context.
Yeah.
But the reality here is he did exactly that. And that's what I got. And so I was able to make a really good informed decision. I saw the pictures. I see what he's talking about. And, I've fixed some things on my own and whatever that he found that I was able to do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because what I'll tell you, if I have another roof issue, I'm going to call the same company back because I thought they were fair and I liked the way they treated me. Even though I didn't go further with them, I will recommend them and I will call them back.
Yeah.
So, it's just doing what you say you're going to do, but creating the time to be able to have a conversation with a customer. Mm-hmm. Because it's really about your customer. And again, we talked about this before. Your customer experience is not the work you do. Doing the work correctly is the least you should be doing. Mm-hmm. The customer experience is what you do beyond just doing the work. And you have to be cognizant of that. And that is a lot of what communication is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I do an okay job with communicating, I want you to ask your employees. I want you to look at the reviews that you're getting. Do people talk about how well you explained something? Do people talk about how the time that you spent with them in their home made them feel more comfortable, more at ease, better educated? Those are clues that you're doing a good job communicating. If you hear your employees often say things like, well, I didn't know what you wanted me to do. Okay. A clear indication that perhaps you've made some assumptions and have some expectations for your employees that you're not communicating clearly about. So those are clues, and paying attention to those clues can help you improve and up your game with communication. So I hope this has been good for you. Thanks for tuning in today. I just want to remind people that they can absolutely go. Let me hold on. My notes went away. There we are. If you'd like to let us know how we're doing, we'd love it if you'd take a minute to leave us a review in iTunes. And the reason is because more reviews in iTunes means that we're able to serve more listeners with this content and keep this project of love going for a long, long time to come. And don't forget that you can download our free show app over in the Apple App Store, as well as Google Play. And we've got lots of great content in there, some bonus content as well, frequently appearing in the app, and some special offers too that will be important to you in growing your business. So check out the app for free there. But most of all, come hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. Just do a search for Blue Collar Proud Nation on Facebook. You'll find the group. Ask to join. You'll be let right in. You can hang out with some great people over there and join us. And as always, you can find out about all the other places you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That is going to do it for this episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. As always, Taylor and I want to thank you so much for being out there and listening to us every single week. We want to thank the people that make this show happen. That would be Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our social media manager. Until next time, remember, it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one you're proud of. So take your blood, sweat, and tears and build it the Blue Collar Proud way. We'll see you next time right here back on the show. Thanks.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.